Hello, Blazing Sphinx here, and this is a new What If on my channel. It's what if Naruto was an alien or an extraterrestrial being, however you want to put it. And the type of alien he looks like, at first glance, you would probably mistake him for an Otsutsuki if you knew what it was. But no, he's actually from an alien race that revolve a lot around dragons. And they have two extra forms. One is a humanoid dragon form, while the second one is their actual dragon form. And their skin color is normally white or gray. And sometimes they could be like a dark black. And their hair is always white. And yeah, they're good at, like, they're just born prodigies at Kenjutsu. They're fairly good at Taijutsu. And their speed and stealth are just unmatched by any. So yeah, this is Naruto. And this is his dragon form. And this is his humanoid dragon form, which looks like a female, but it's not. Trust me. But anyway, let's get started into how this happens. So, sorry. So on Naruto's planet, well, on the planet he was born, there's no gravity. So if you were to get thrown up too high, you would eventually fly out of its atmosphere. And Naruto had a brother that was a little bit older than him. And his brother would be tossing him up and down and just messing with him as they were playing with each other. And Naruto was a baby, so he was just laughing, seeing as, like, he doesn't really know what's going on. And his brother had ended up throwing him up too high. And when he tried to jump up there to catch him, he couldn't catch him. And eventually, the boy, or baby Naruto, would eventually drift out of the atmosphere of the planet and get sent off through outer space. And the baby can't breathe through outer space because, yeah, their kind, their alien kind, can breathe in outer space. So he's fine. The only thing really is just that he's hungry. And not too long after, multiple meteors had flew into the atmosphere of that planet, and they were going so fast that not even the zero gravity could make them, like, slow down when they hit the atmosphere. And they eventually ended up destroying the planet with everything on it. And Naruto, after a couple of days of drifting in space, he eventually started falling. And as he was falling, a man with yellow hair had seen him, and with extreme speed had jumped from tree to tree in the air to catch the boy before landing on the ground. And he would be pretty confused, but he wouldn't really care, as he was going to go show his wife the boy. And his wife, Kushina, isn't pregnant in this time. But the Nine-Tails still does get taken out of her by Obito in the same night after just meeting the boy, well, the baby boy. And they planned on sealing it inside of him. So eventually, when they were able to seal it inside of him, they realized it wouldn't work. And the Nine-Tails had then just died, as he wasn't compatible with the boy's body for some reason. And the Nine-Tails had died from getting forced into the boy's body. But the boy was unharmed. And they ended up naming the boy Naruto before passing away. So, Naruto is 5. He already has a sword like the one in the thumbnail. And he carries this sword around with him, even though it's bigger than his whole body. And as he's walking, he looks up to see two Jonin blocking his path, because he's hated by the village for two reasons. One, because they think he's the reason why Minato and Kushina had died, and because he looks different from the others. And by different, I don't mean like he just looks a little different. No, man, is really different. And he doesn't really have a last name, so he just goes by the name Naruto. And Hiruzen was thinking about giving him the Sarutobi last name, and he didn't want him to bear either Uzumaki or Namikaze, because both those clans, they tried to wipe out the Uzumaki clan, so they don't really like Uzumakis that much. Well, not the village, but like a lot of people out there. And the Namikaze clan, it's just they have their enemies and whatnot. But so he thought about giving him the last name Sarutobi, but he ended up not doing it. So Naruto would just stick with his last name, Naruto. And the two Jonin would say, "Hey, what do you think you're doing? You know you're not allowed to walk through the village." He would say, "Well, last time I checked, you didn't own the village, the Hokage did. And he doesn't have a problem with me walking through the village." As he would separate the two Jonin out of his way, and as he walked, they then gripped onto his shoulders. And he thought his tough act was going to be enough for them to just leave him alone, which kind of put fear in his heart that he probably would have to fight. And they would stare him in the eyes, and he would stare back at them. And then he felt a looming presence over them, as the facial expressions of the Jonin in front of him had changed. And they ran off. And when he turned around, he would see another Jonin with a headband over his eye and a mask, and white hair just like himself. Well, it wasn't white, it was more of a grayish silver. And he would say, "Who are you?" Hold up. One more thing I forgot to mention. Like, Naruto wears these, like, spandex kind of pants, like, you know what Michi wears on his legs? It's something like that, but it's like a dark burgundy. That's what he wears. And he wears the normal ninja shoes, but they're all black, instead of a dark blue, how they are in the original. But, so, Naruto would ask the ninja who he was, and he would say, "Oh, I'm Kakashi, and I'm guessing you're Naruto." And Naruto would nod his head. And Kakashi would say, "Well, be careful next time," as he begins to walk off. And Naruto would say, "Wait," making Kakashi turn around. Naruto would say, Can you train me?" As Kakashi would say, "I don't think I'd have the time. But maybe if you show me that you're worthy of my training, I might just train you." As he would body flicker away, leaving Naruto confused. But Naruto would continue to drag his sword all the way to the ramen shop, as the boy has a liking for this particular food. And he would be served a bowl of ramen, and he would sit there eating. And after he got done eating, he went to the forest to train. He'd be jumping from tree to tree, a lot better than he did in the original, actually doing it with some speed and accuracy. And he was able to throw shuriken and kunai while he was on the move. And most of them hit their targets, while some of them missed. But he still hadn't got a bullseye yet, which was his goal for the end of the day. So he kept at it for hours on end until he finally hit a bullseye. And it was getting dark. And he's been training since it was, a.m. But he ends up, taking a little break. And after his break is over, he begins to work out by doing a bunch of push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, and running through the forest to build up his endurance and strength. And after this, he began to sit in the middle of a pond, and the pond had like a little island, you could say, in it. It was just a little bit bigger than Naruto's body, and he would sit down on there and start to meditate. And him meditating opened his mind, made him realize more things, made him feel stronger mentally, and he would feel something poking out of his back, and it was dragging against the floor. And would look back, and it would be a tail of some sorts, which would surprise him as it wasn't there a moment ago. And it was scaly, and his skin felt tough too. And he could feel the top of his head, and well, his forehead at least, and he felt like a little spiky thing there. And it was a black horn, but it was fairly small. It was just barely poking out of his hair. And his tail was no longer than like a foot, so it was only around 8 inches in length. But he would like his tail and appreciate it a lot. And he would continue his training every day for the next 2 years. And when he was 7, he had just got done with school and was waving goodbye to his 2 friends, Shikamaru and Choji. And as he walked home, the same 2 Jonin from years before had stopped him. And they said, that Jonin isn't here to save you again. So you know what that means, right? But Naruto was just unfazed. And he would say, well, I don't know what that means. What does it mean? As he would give the 2 Jonin the death glare of a lifetime. But they would think he was trying to act tough again. So one of the Jonin would throw a punch at him, which he would dodge, and say, well, I might as well get going. It's gonna get dark soon. As he would walk straight past them. Another Jonin would then try to kick him in the back of the head, but he would just duck and continue to walk. They would then throw a kunai at him, and he would turn around, grabbing 2 of his shuriken, throwing them off the kunai. So they bounced off of the kunais, met back with each other, and once they hit each other, they bounced off each other, and then hit the Jonin's vest, but he didn't throw them hard enough to pierce through the vest. So they were just, they pierced through the vest, but they didn't, cut the ninjas themselves. So it was kind of like how Itachi did that thing with the rocks, but Naruto did it with shuriken. And Naruto would say, well, I best be going now, as he would wave to the 2 Jonin while walking away, and this would make them angry. So they had plans to follow him home, which they did. And when he made it to his house, before he could close the door, one of them put their feet in the way. And this angered Naruto. He was okay with them harassing him outside his house. But on his property, in his house, they were going to harass him. So he would grab one of them, pull them halfway to the door, and slam the door shut. He would then open it, pull their arm down, knee him in the face, and then kick them out. The other guy would try to come through, and once he got almost his full body through, Naruto would close the door by kicking it, slamming it onto the dude's leg. The Jonin would then try to punch Naruto, but Naruto would duck under it and grab his elbow, slamming it into the door, putting more pressure on the dude's ankle. Then the Jonin would try to elbow Naruto in the forehead, but Naruto had ducked down once more and kicked him on the side of his head, knocking him out of the door, leaving his hand in between the doorway, which Naruto opened the door and slammed it full force on his fingers. And this will make the Jonin yell out in pain, as Naruto would open the door and kick him off the balcony. Because in Naruto's apartment complex, it's like, there's the lower part, and then there's the part that leads up the stairs, and there's a railing blocking off like that narrow cement place. So it's basically like one of those motels, like that. And he would drop kick him off of over the railing from the second floor. And then he would pick up the other one and throw him on top of the Jody, telling them never to come back to his house. And they'd run off. See, if it was a fair fight, that would have been a lot more for Naruto to handle. But since Naruto had the upper hand, seeing as they were both in his doorway, and he had a door to his, his disposal, he was able to make quick work of him. And he would begin meditating in his room. And after that, he would start doing his push-ups, sit-ups, and whatnot, and practicing on his accuracy with his shuriken. And he has a log in his room. He never knew what to do with it until today. He would pull out his sword, as he can swing it without falling now, since he's gotten a lot stronger. And he would tie it up to his wall and start swinging at the sword. At the log. With his sword, swinging at it. He would swing at it for at least an hour, and his arms would be sore, and the log would be covered in cuts. Naruto would then plop down on the floor and fall asleep on the floor, and wake up the next day. And when he woke up, he decided to skip school to get some extra training in. And that's what he would do. He would train in his house for a little bit before going out to get some books from the library. And while he was browsing for some books, he seen a book that said jutsu on it. And that was the only thing it said. And Naruto would ponder back to a time when he was in the academy and they had taught him about jutsu. So Naruto would grab the book and check out at the library, and he would go to his house, and in the book there had been 5 pieces of paper, which he didn't know why, because the book wasn't supposed to come with paper. But it was kind of ironic, as he read what he was supposed to do to try to find out what chakra nature he had. So he would test it on the first piece of paper, and it would be set on fire. He would do it for the second paper, and he would see lightning marks. He threw it for the third piece of paper, and it'd get wet. And then this repeated for the second 2. So he realized he had water style, lightning style, and fire style. He would be okay with this. And he would be browsing through the book and learning chakra control. And he would practice in his house trying to walk on walls. And after a couple of hours, he was able to get it down. And then he would read that you were able to walk on water with the same technique. So he would go to his tub and fill it up with water. And then he would try to stand on it, which would take him a while. But eventually, at the end of the day, he was able to get it down. And he noticed his tail was getting longer, and so were his horns, which made him happy, as it wasn't going to be small forever in his mind. Which he was right; they wouldn't be small forever. But he would then sit down eating some instant ramen, getting ready to go to sleep, as he would hear multiple knocks on his door. And he would open the door to see Shikamaru, Choji, and pretty much every main person from his class that he notices. And he would wonder why they're all there. And they would say, well, we know it's your birthday today. Well, it's not really his birthday today. Well, it's his presumed birthday. And, Choji had asked if we would all come along. So, that's why we're here. And Sasuke would just, shrug it off yeah, I'm here because of them. Because this is after what, Itachi did, so he's a little, So they would all be in his house, and they just play random games And then everyone would leave at the end of the little party, and Naruto would go to sleep. So, after he woke up the next day, he would go to school and have a normal day and do some more training. And he would go to Hiruzen, since he kind of knew him a little well, and he would ask him for a mission, any mission, as long as it didn't have to do with helping someone with their groceries or helping them find a lost cat. Which, he would say, alright, like, I know your abilities, so I'll give you this little mission. It was a group of bandits that have been stealing from stores, and he wanted Naruto to take care of them. And he told Naruto that he would pay him too if he did it. So Naruto would run off to the village, and he was pretty fast. And when he ran off, he would go around looking for clues and asking for information about the bandits. And they had told him that the bandits were located all the way on the west side of the village. And he would go to the west side, and it was closer to the gate that has surrounded the closer to the wall that had surrounded the Leaf Village. And he would stare at some abandoned looking place, and he would think to himself that this is definitely where they had to be. And he would bust through the door, seeing 3 of the 5 bandits, and one of them, wielding an axe, would rush up to the door and swing their axe at him. And Naruto would draw his sword. Well, he would sheath his sword like halfway, blocking the axe, and then, hold up, but blocking the axe and getting sent out of the door. The man with the axe would then jump up above him, slamming his axe down, which Naruto would dodge by just standing, like, rotating his body at a 90-degree angle and stepping back a bit, dodging it. And then he would, like, before the man could lift up his axe, he would grab the axe from, like, the back of where the blade was, hold it down, and he would elbow the man in the face. And then, with the back of his knuckles, he would hit the man's forehead, sending him, like, making him stand upward. Then, in a blinding blur, Naruto had appeared under the man, and he would knee him in his gut. And behind the man were 2 other men with daggers and large cloaks, and both of them would try to cut at Naruto, but Naruto would draw his sword and block their daggers, because their they had their daggers in an exclamation as they were gonna try to cut Naruto's head off. But Naruto just put his sword in the middle of their daggers and he blocked it. But then they would separate their daggers, doing a 360, getting ready to stab Naruto in the back. But then Naruto used the hilt of his sword to stop the attack. And then he would turn around with his sword, slicing across their chest, putting them in immense pain, making them drop their weapons. And then Naruto would blitz in front of them, hitting them both with a powerful punch to the stomach, which would knock them out. And he would say, I'm pretty sure there should be 2 more, as 2 females, one wielding a sword and one with her bare hands, would surround him. And he would say, I'm guessing you 2 are like the leaders. And they wouldn't say anything, as the one with the sword would then clash swords with Naruto. And Naruto would then push past her sword, making her have to dodge his. And when she ducked under his sword, he would then knee her in the chin, making her back up in agony. And then the one with her bare hands would blitz after Naruto, throwing a bunch of punches, which Naruto, he wouldn't block them, but he wouldn't dodge them. He would, like, put his hand up, like, have his palm out, and have it facing sideways to the left, and he, like, started blocking, or to the right, depending on which hand it is, and he just, like, started, like, making, like, what is it called, deflecting them, I guess, yeah, deflecting them. And, yeah, he would just be deflecting her punches, and then she would try to kick him, and he would grab her leg, pulling her down to the ground and then elbowing her in the stomach. Then the girl with the sword would appear above him, not caring about her partner's life, or whatever you would call someone that's in this, like, that helps you rob things. And Naruto would just roll out of the way as she sliced through the other captain, the co-captain, I guess you could say. And she would stare Naruto dead in his eyes with anger. And Naruto would just be calm. With his blood-red eyes, he would stare back at her. And then she would dash at him, slicing her sword at him, and Naruto would just block with his sword. And with relative ease, too, as he would use his tail, which was about 2 feet now, to grab her leg and pull her down. And his horns were like 5 inches now. He would turn around and pretty much headbutt her, and his horns would inflict a lot of damage, knocking her out. And he would sadly be like, I'm gonna have to kill you. As he would try to use a jutsu he had seen in the book, Fire Style, Ultimate Fireball. As a fireball would appear in his hands, it would be dark red around the outside, and on the inside it would be a bright yellow. And he would throw it into the bodies as he had rounded them all up together. And they all burnt. And he walked away, going to Haru's and reporting about how the mission went. And he was then given his money. And he walked away. Now I'm going to do a time skip to when Naruto was 10. So, Naruto and Kakashi had met again on Naruto's birthday. And Naruto was able to, show Kakashi that he was worthy of his training. And Kakashi ends up training him. And luckily, since Naruto has a lightning affinity, Kakashi could teach him jutsu. So Kakashi ends up teaching Naruto the Chidori and Lightning Blade. But Naruto had, he only uses the Chidori. And it's because it's most appealing to him. And he also learned a couple of fire style jutsu from him. And he doesn't want to learn any water style yet. So he knows the fireball jutsu, the great fireball jutsu. He knows Phoenix Flower jutsu as well. So pretty much he knows 3 jutsu, because why would he use the fireball jutsu if he already has the great fireball jutsu? So by this time, his horns have grown to their peak at 7 inches long. So his horns are noticeable, and his tail has grown to a staggering 3 feet, to the point where it, drags on the ground behind him, unless he was to hold it up. And while he's training with Kakashi, they're doing some hand-to-hand combat. Naruto is keeping up with Kakashi, and it even looks like he's beating him with his superior taijutsu and his extra speed and stealth. He is having Kakashi, he's putting Kakashi on edge, because this is how their fight or spar goes. So Naruto would throw a punch at Kakashi, which Kakashi would dodge, and then Naruto would sweep his legs, which it would hit, and he would make Kakashi fall. And Naruto would quickly stand up and get ready to deliver just a massive kick to the top of Kakashi's stomach. It's like where he puts his leg all the way up, straight up in the air, and then swings it downwards. That kind of kick. But Kakashi had rolled out of the way. And then Kakashi would speed blitz Naruto, throwing an abundance of punches and kicks, which Naruto had negated or dodged. Then they would both be throwing punches at the same exact time that would be dodged by the other. And this would go on for a while before Naruto had jumped back and disappeared into the shadows. And Kakashi would look around for Naruto as Naruto was keeping his chakra concealed and keeping his presence hidden. He would then jump out of some trees, as silent as a mouse. And then he would be like, Kakashi would only notice him because above him it would get dark all of a sudden, and he would look up to see Naruto right above the sun, wielding two kunai. And as he fell down, he would try to slice at Kakashi in like an X formation, because he had the kunai at the right hand had the kunai on his left side, and then his left hand had the kunai on his right side, and then he would swing both his arms forward, creating an X at the peak of the kunai. And Kakashi will use his own kunai to block this attack. And when this happened, Naruto had smirked like this was a part of his plan, as he would let go of the two kunai, fall behind Kakashi, but he would land on his feet, draw his sword, turn around, and slash at Kakashi. But Kakashi had poofed. It was a clone. And Naruto would turn around and dodge to the left, as Kakashi would throw a uppercut that had missed. Naruto would then use his speed to appear in front of Kakashi, jump up, and just drive his heel into Kakashi's arms, which were blocking his kick. But while they were blocking his kick, Naruto would use his other foot and do a flip kick to Kakashi's chin, sending him in the air. Then Kakashi would say, "Fire style, fireball jutsu." And Naruto would say, "Fire style, great fireball jutsu." As he would then throw the fireball at Kakashi's fireball, and his fireball would end up overpowering Kakashi's, and it would go straight for Kakashi. And Kakashi would then say, "Fire style, great fireball jutsu," as he would then copy Naruto's jutsu, launch it at his own, and Naruto's fireball jutsu would be dispersed as well as Kakashi's, because Naruto actually has the affinity for fire, and Kakashi only copied it, so Naruto's was still a lot stronger than his. And then they would clash fists and jump back. They would stare at each other, and Kakashi would say, "You're strong," as he would lift up his headband and activate the One Tomoe Sharingan. "But you still can't beat me," as he would then start pretty much toying with Naruto, and there wasn't much Naruto could do. So he would jump back and say, "Fire style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu," as three fireballs would chase after Kakashi. And Kakashi had dodged, but he didn't realize they were basically heat-seeking missiles, and they were following him. So while he was busy, Naruto created two shadow clones, as he knows the shadow clone jutsu, and both his shadow clones would chase after Kakashi with the real him, and all of them would grab one of the fireballs out of the air, leave hand signs with one hand, and say "Great Fireball Jutsu," as the fireballs that were already in their hands became massive, and they would say, "Great Fireball," well, the Great Phoenix Fireball Barrage, as one of them would speed blitz in front of Kakashi and throw a punch at him, which he had dodged, but then they would use the massive fireball and slam it at Kakashi, which would make him jump into the air, which he would look down to see the two others jump up at him, and he would think that one of these two were the real Naruto, as they would both slam their fireballs into his chest. Before he could fly off, he would grab their arms, pull them at himself and knee them in the stomach. But they both disappeared. And he looked downwards as his body was facing downwards. And he looked at a smirking Naruto who used all his force to just jump up into the air and deliver a gut punch to Kakashi. But it was a substitution jutsu. As Kakashi turned into a log, Naruto turned around to be met with a shuriken that had cut his face with his cheek. But yeah, as he started falling down, he was gripping his cheek as it was bleeding. He would then wipe off the blood and have a blood-curdling smirk on his face with his sharp teeth showing. He would then disappear, and Kakashi would turn around and put one hand out and close it, as then Naruto would appear, and Naruto's punch had been caught by Kakashi. As Kakashi had seen him running over to him and getting ready to throw the punch, then Kakashi would appear behind Naruto, chop his neck, and knock him out. And he would be proud of Naruto, as with that strategy he had made up, he was able to land a hit on Kakashi even with his Sharingan. So Naruto would then go home when he awoke and practice on some jutsu. And he would see a high-ranking jutsu called the Heavenly Arrow. Heavenly Lightning. So he would read the hand signs for this jutsu and yell Heavenly Lightning, as lightning would, 5 lightning bolts, a bright yellow color, would be launched down from the sky, and they would hit the ground, making a crater about that size of an average 13-year-old, which is 5'1". So it was a 5'1" crater. But yeah, that's just the specifics. And Naruto would continue doing this jutsu over and over again until he got it, until he was able to master it and have it do maximum damage. And the maximum damage was able to create a crater that was, sorry, my eyes itch, that was 12 feet. It had a 12-foot radius all around. So from one side all the way to the other side, it was 24 feet. So the crater was pretty big. And freaking Naruto would be proud of himself. And he would start training the Chidori. He would use it to cut through multiple trees at once before the jutsu had faded, and he would train it for hours. And after he got done with that, he would go to look for some water jutsu and stumble upon the water dragon jutsu. And he would try to pull off this jutsu, but he was unsuccessful. And he would try for weeks upon weeks, still training with Kakashi now and then, every other day, until eventually he was able to make a somewhat of a water dragon jutsu. It was a lot smaller and a lot weaker than a normal one. But now that he was able to actually do the jutsu, he was going to train it. And he spent 2 whole days training it. He didn't even sleep for those 2 whole days. But he had done it. He had made the water dragon jutsu complete. And he was proud of himself. And he decided to take a break from jutsu. Now I'm going to time skip to when Naruto is 12. And he aces the graduation exams for the reason that he already knows the Shadow Clone Jutsu, because Kakashi can copy it, which he did, and then he taught it to Naruto. Then they would get their teams, and when Kakashi walked in the room, Naruto would yell out Kakashi Sensei, and Sasuke and Sakura would be confused, as they didn't, they expected that none of them were going to know the Sensei. And Kakashi would take them up to the roof and they would all say their dreams. But Naruto's dream is to be the strongest ninja to ever exist, even stronger than the first Hokage and stronger than the fourth, because those were the two he looked up to the most. He looked up to the fourth Hokage the most because he heard about the stories of all the jutsu he perfected and the jutsu he created, the Rasengan, and just how strong he was, how he took out armies, how he took out the Raikage in his prime. And then he heard how the first Hokage's nickname was literally the goddess Shinobi. And Naruto would say, I wonder what my nickname would be if like I were to become a legend. And Kakashi would say, they'd probably call you the Dragon of the Leaf. Or maybe like Snowflake. And this would make Naruto pretty angry. That he would say, that's a weird name, Kakashi. And Kakashi would just, have that look on his face where you can tell he's smiling. And Naruto would say, the White Dragon of the Leaf. Kinda has a little nice touch to it. Yeah, I like that name. And this would be Naruto's goal, to be the White Dragon of the Leaf. And they would then be informed about the bell test, which Naruto would, he'd be like, okay, I can do that. And when Naruto's walking home, he is then confronted by multiple Jonin. There's at least 10 of them. And they would be staring at him, and he would be staring back at them. And they would instantly start trying to fight him, catching him off guard. They were able to beat him up, and Naruto was beaten up pretty badly. And one of them started to walk up to him slowly, and they were about to deliver a final punch to knock him out. But Naruto's clan has a dojutsu similar to the Byakugan. It gives them that same 360 vision, but the range is wider, as it has a 30-foot span all around him. And he's able to, it strengthens all his fire type and lightning type jutsu. He's also able to predict movements, kind of like the Sharingan, and this actually helps him with the unlocking of his dragon forms and stuff like that. Like, it helps the pace go faster if he masters this. And when he had used it, he was able to dodge the attack even in his weakened state. And for the first time, he entered his humanoid dragon form. And he would flash through them instantly. And they would all look at their stomachs, and there'd be holes in their stomachs. And Naruto's hands drenched in blood. But Naruto would just walk off. Still in his humanoid dragon form, he would eventually fall out of the form. And he would walk home. And that's where I'm going to end this off. Hope you guys liked it. Yeah, other than that though, I'm outie. Oh, no, that was dumb. I'm out.